Hello, classmates and Professor Ellens. This is Megan DeWeird. Thank you for joining me for Win-Win Communicating. When was the last time you negotiated with someone? My guess is that it was more recently than you might realize. You may have negotiated with another driver at the four-way stop on your way to work this morning. Perhaps you negotiated with your son or daughter last night at bedtime. Kids are awesome negotiators. Maybe you've negotiated recently with your spouse or significant other, or perhaps at work with a client or a service provider. Negotiation is a communication process that we engage in on a daily basis, often without even realizing that we're negotiating. Recognizing negotiations and practicing good communication skills within the negotiation process will help us to reach win-win agreements and improve the quality of our lives and relationships. In the next few minutes, we're going to look at what negotiation is, why seeking win-win is the best framework for our negotiations, and most importantly, how to negotiate successfully. Let's start by looking at what win-win negotiation is. Ury and Fisher, in their book Getting to Yes, say that negotiation is a process of communicating back and forth for the purpose of reaching a joint decision. Negotiation is really conversation plus goals. We've been talking a lot about conversation in our coursework. Win-win, according to Stephen Covey in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families, is a fundamental paradigm of seeking mutual benefit. So in that conversation that we're having with goals, it's saying your goal is as important as my goal. 15 years ago, my husband and I were newly engaged, sitting in the basement of my parents' house, discussing which couch we'd be bringing to our new home. My parents had offered us a mid-century brown couch, and Dan's parents had offered a 1981 plaid couch. We each liked the couches coming from our own families, and I think that we must have been getting a little heated in our discussion because my mom shouted in from the room next door, "Why don't you think of a third option?" As silly as this example is, it actually serves as a good example of the negotiation process, and we'll revisit it in future slides. Perhaps you're beginning to see the many shapes and forms negotiation can take, but you're still wondering why you should bother with win-win instead of just pushing to get hard to get what you want, or giving in to placate the other person. Why should we seek win-win? James 4:1-2 says, in essence, that we have needs and desires that drive our actions and can lead us to behavior that damages relationships. This is totally in keeping with Covey's claim that anything but a win-win constitutes a loss for emotional bank accounts. Therefore, a mutual win in negotiation is really a win for the relationship. Even when a win-win agreement is impossible and we have to accept what experts call our BATNA, or best alternative to a negotiated agreement, if we have communicated well in the process, we preserve the relationship for future negotiations or simply future relationship. Being able to recognize conversations as negotiation and desiring win-win agreements is a terrific foundation, but how do we actually successfully execute a win-win negotiation? Well, it's all about the communication, using excellent communication skills for win-win. The first step is to set a positive tone. I have great news for you. You can make a difference. One person can normally affect the tone of an interaction. That we see that in the case with the couch, that my mom, even though she wasn't part of the conversation between Dan and me, she affected the tone of the conversation simply by suggesting that we think of a third option. Which reminds me of scarcity and abundance. If we have the idea that there's not enough, then our minds are closed to the idea of possibilities and options. An abundance mentality says there's plenty to go around, and it frees our minds to think of what those possibilities are. An abundance mentality also helps us move from me to we. When things are scarce, then we have to fight fiercely to defend our own position. But in an abundance mindset, we're free to think about we and what's good for everyone in the whole. Covey talks a lot about this in the context of families, that when we get married, when we have children, we have got to move. If we're going to have successful relationships there, we have to move from a self-centeredness to a group-centeredness. Finally, an unwavering commitment to dignity. I've really appreciated the conversations that we've had in class about dignity, and it's absolutely essential in communicating for a win-win. Next, we have to identify positions and focus on interests. So in the case of the couch, my position was that I wanted the brown couch, and Dan's position was that he wanted the plaid couch. Fisher and Ury say, interests motivate people. They are the silent movers behind the hubbub of positions. Your position is something you've decided upon. Your interests are what caused you so to decide. So let's think of the orange arrows in this slide as the question why. Why is my position that I want the brown couch? Well, I prefer the soft, solid color fabric that is the upholstery, and I like the lines of the brown couch. Why is Dan's position that he wants the plaid couch? Well, the brown one is way heavier and he doesn't want to move it. And the plaid one is familiar. He's used to it. When we begin to identify our interests, we open up, again, our minds to other possibilities. In moving from positions to interests, it's critical that we use good communication skills to achieve a thorough understanding of our negotiation partner. We've been talking about communication skills for our entire class. Our projects center on communication skills. The conversation assignments are particularly applicable. Basically, we're listening to understand, testing our understanding, and speaking with care. So don't interrupt. Practice empathy. Ask for feedback and clarification. I think I understand you saying that the brown couch is way heavy and you don't want to carry it. Is that right? Speaking with care, be genuine, assert yourself, but calmly and logically and respectfully. Use manners. Don't be overly emotional or defensive. Excellent communication skills are absolutely key to negotiation for win-win. Finally, brainstorm solutions and create agreements or utilize your BATNA. In brainstorming solutions, it's really important to withhold judgment and to think of as many ideas as possible. In the couch scenario, maybe we could have brought both couches to our house, or no couches and all chairs. Perhaps we should have or could have gone out to buy a couch and not taken one from either of our families. Or maybe we'd come up with a different free couch. In fact, that's what we did. We have a darling little red couch that was Dan's great-grandpa's, and it's perfect for the house, and it's still sitting in our home today, 15 years later. That was definitely a win-win agreement for the two of us. In creating agreements, Covey offers a formula that we can define desired results, express guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. It's an excellent formula, not always applicable, but when it is, definitely worth using. And ultimately, we negotiate every day with the people around us. As we become more aware of the process and hone our communication skills, we'll not only reach win-win agreements, we will build win-win relationships. What skills do you think you need to work on to become more successful in communicating to achieve win-win agreements?